Hi there, Good Word fam. It is Tisha, and this is the Good Word podcast, and we are still celebrating our 100th episode. So thank you all so much for all of the messages that we've received. I'm super excited about the ladies that are joining us for today's chat. It's Dr. Tara Jenkins and her daughter, Princess Jenkins. And for those of you who listen to the podcast, you know that I lived in Chicago before I moved back home to the DMV. And the Jenkins family are staples in Chicago, gospel's first family in Chicago. And so I'm so happy that you all could join us. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having us.
I'm so excited, and congratulations on the going to 1,000 and beyond.
Yes, we're claiming it. So, I love the mother-daughter duo that you guys are, having the energy that you guys have going on right now. I know that you guys are super busy. I follow both of you on social media, and so I know that you all are up to such great things. For folks listening who may not be as familiar with who you are, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you all stand for, because you guys have a powerful message.
Okay, you got it, Mommy.
I'm Tara Jenkins, wife of recording artist, songwriter Charles Jenkins. We've been married 24 years. We have 3 kids, Princess Paris and Charles. So my life revolves around ministry, motherhood, and music, and speaking messages of hope. And I'm excited that we believe that God drafts us as a team. And so it's Team Jenkins and my oldest daughter, Princess. We're so proud of her. Princess?
Yes, Princess is a budding entrepreneur, or an entrepreneur, full-fledged actually. I also believe I follow your Glamland company. Tell us about that.
Okay, glamlandofficial.com is a beauty brand where we believe that you should be beautiful, glammed from the inside out. So you can make sure you tap in at glamlandofficial.com.
And you said something so important. You said beautiful from the inside out, which is so refreshing to hear yourself, a young person or younger person, spreading that message. How did this come to be? How did you create this and think of this?
Well, so God talks to me in the shower. So it was a shower thought. And it was that we should be glammed from the inside out, meaning that mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically, we should feel healthy so that we can exude that on the outside.
And that is something that's so important. What has been the feedback from your peers?
They think, so I'm really big on mental health. And so my peers agree with me and stand with me on how important it is for us to be mentally and spiritually well. And so you can be cute on the outside, but then if your attitude is stank, then you're stank. So that's kind of how we all feel about it.
Yeah, and Mom, you have a message as well in terms of being enough. And I love the term that you use, and I hope you've coined it because it's something that stuck with me. Enoughness, Dr. Tara, what does that mean?
I didn't create it, but I'm definitely spreading the word. Enoughness. It means this intangible feeling to know that you're enough to do what you're called and created to do. And so just as Princess said, it's important what's going on the inside, and it overflows to our outside. You can tell how someone shows up in the world if they feel like they're enough. I love going to live performances, and often I've heard people respond to hate on the mic. And I'm like, we all paid to be here. Who are you talking to? And so I say immediately, oh, they've been reading their comments. And so you have to make sure that you don't live your life according to the boos or the cheers. You know that you are enough as an individual called and created by your creator.
You guys have a very interesting dynamic because it really is a team effort and a family effort. How do you balance motherhood, marriage, and then also ministry?
It's been what we call a juggling act and not a balancing act, because there's always something that's going. My mentor, Jamel Meek, says the juggling act means something is going to be in the air, and then whatever's at hand, you got to try to catch it. And really, the way that we have operated as a family is through integrating and including our 3 children in everything that we do. So you might see us tap dancing together on one song. You might see Princess giving producer ideas in a studio and a video. We always believe in including all of the kids with our busy schedules. And then I actually enjoy, and my husband as well, integrating their ideas into what we are doing, because their ideas are amazing, viable, important, and worth being included.
You have children who are, young, kind of a younger generation, obviously. And then you all are also, of an older generation. Do you feel like being so close and kind of that integration helps keep you and your husband kind of hip with what's trending right now?
Well, it definitely keeps us hearing honest feedback. I think that we're cool and hip, and they are very generous with their opinion of when we are not. They will say, down is cringy.
That's funny. So, we're living in interesting times, obviously, and there's a lot going on. How have you all navigated the pandemic?
I'll go. I think that it's been very important for us to know that since we are in a season of quote unquote uncertainty, it doesn't mean that the season is over or that whatever we're supposed to do stops. So being able to think about how do we make this happen as opposed to we can't make it happen until. So how can we make it happen in this time as opposed to waiting until the time is over? Because we really don't know when this pandemic is going to be over. So being able to implement whatever ideas or situations or whatever we're supposed to do in this time is a way to think about it as opposed to being negative about it.
And Dr. Tara, what about you?
We had so many planned things when the pandemic first arrived, and those things still happened. As Princess mentioned, it was just in a different way. So it was reimagined. And so as we ended a time in Chicago, we had an album that we were ready to put out, and we had books that we were ready to put out, and we had music videos that were planned. And those things still happened during the pandemic. It was just done differently. So our Keep the Faith music video was done in our yard instead of in a studio. Our music was released virtually with a virtual concert online instead of in person. And then my book things online, like create Dr. Tara's classroom. So people could go through the 6 stages of enoughness in an online classroom, even though we were able to do the content plan. We just reimagined how we could still release this good into the world.
How do you balance the gospel with contemporary feel and reach people where they are?
I think about the Acts, and it talks about the day of Pentecost, each person hearing the good news, the gospel, in their own language. Well, I believe that when we communicate through contemporary ideas, through maybe a secular contact point of a secular song or a movie illustration, that we are creating a welcome mat for the gospel to share the good news, and individuals, wherever they are, meeting them where they are, they can hear God's good news in their own language. That language might be hip hop. That language might be rap. That language might be music. But we are called to package the good news in a way that meets people exactly where they are.
So, people are going back to school. And for folks who listen to the podcast, they know that I grew up in and attend Greater Mount Calvary Holy Church with Bishop Alfred Owens and co-pastor Susie C. Owens. And when I was coming up, that was a time when you lived at church. We were at church several times a week, all day, sun up to sundown. So as kids, start to head back to school, I feel like it doesn't feel like we've gotten back to church yet. The pandemic seems like it really derailed church attendance, and I include myself. We're watching online. We're still watching online, and how do you get people back into the building?
What was the last thing you said? You said, how do we get people back into the building?
How do you get people back into the building?
I don't know that we can get people back into a physical building because there still are health concerns, but we can still have community. And so we need to make sure that we keep connectivity. And so it might be on the church grounds in outdoor adventures or events, as long as it's warm enough to do that. I know that we're all in regions that don't necessarily allow that. And then through still having community that is based and rooted in that building, right. The church more than a building, but we still have to have community, small groups. God did not create us to be alone. Two can chase 10,000, one can chase 1,000. So there's power in unity, is power in connectivity. And so we still have to have those small groups, those connections, things that are based in the church, even though they might happen outside of the church.
So, I was, partially joking, and I was serious when I said, I feel like you all were the gospel first family of Chicago when I was there. I lived in Chicago from, I'm trying to think, 2011 to 2015 before I moved back home. And I always would hear about the Jenkins family. What are some other gospel families that you all are inspired by?
In Chicago or?
All over.
I would say the Campbells, Erica and Warren Campbell and Krista and Rosie and Zaya. They're like my cousins, so I had to say that.
I think that God has placed amazing families around us in the gospel music industry and in ministry. What has been a blessing for me is to have other pastors' wives in my life. I have an organization called Ministry Mates. And so those families are like extended family to me. So the Meeks, Pastor James Meeks and First Lady Jamel Meeks, they have 4 kids. And it also helps me to see all of them. They're at a stage ahead of me. So I think it's important to have families that you're connected to that are at the stage that you're in, that are a stage ahead of you, and then those that might be a little younger than you that you can give wisdom to. And so the Meeks are that family that are a little stage ahead of us. Their kids are all grown. Their kids are all graduates of college. And so now I'm in that place where I have a second-year college student, a senior in high school, and a grader. And so the Campbells that are alongside us as they're dropping off Krista Campbell to Spelman College right now as we speak. And then we have families that are younger than us, like the Dates family, Charlie Dates. They have little kids, and we can share wisdom with First Lady Kirsty that, okay, enjoy this time because it starts speeding up and they leave the house and they are, waiting for them to call you.
Right. It's funny you bring up an important point, and I want to take a moment just to remind people to subscribe. We're on iTunes, Audio Boom, and Google Play, and everywhere that podcasts play. But you bring up a really good point because so many times we talk about a village for our children. And I'm a newer mom. I have a daughter who's turning 6 literally in a couple weeks. So navigating motherhood. But so many times we talk about creating this village for our children, but it's also important to create the village for ourselves. And I always say, as a young Black woman, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. I want to walk in a room and learn and be a sponge and, be inspired. And I think that's so important because the misconception is that we are all competing with each other, when in reality, often we are trying to help each other and build each other and encourage each other and inspire each other.
For sure. I often say that Hateration only happens when there's no participation in your purpose. If you're truly pursuing your purpose, you don't even have time to hate. You want to grasp a hold to others who are doing amazing things and find out how you can glean from each other. We're cheering each other on.
Absolutely.
And congratulations, you're doing an amazing job as a mother.
Thank you.
What you are for your child to see you operating fully in your gifts. There's no greater gift than giving your child a front row seat to seeing you operate in your purpose fully.
Well, I appreciate that. And Princess, I want to ask you, because you are kind of a different perspective. You're in college. What is it like, being someone who's saved in an environment where often many are not?
That is a great question. I think it was very important to me to find outlets where I could be around people who are Christians and who do believe, because being around people all the time who don't, that's all you hear. All you hear is people who don't believe. So being able to feed yourself with the belief that you have is very important. So finding a small group and a Bible study to go to was very important to me. So, and then also finding a church home near my school was very important to me. So I was able to achieve both of those things. So that helped me continue to get through the school year, because to me, church is home. That was where I grew up. That was all I knew. So being away from a physical place of my parents or my siblings, I did not have that home aspect. So being able to have a church home, because that's also where I grew up and that's what I consider home, was a way for me to feel comfortable.
And Dr. Tara, I know that warms your heart when you hear that. It's like, yes, I did good.
We're praying every day. I could just jump out of my skin. It's so exciting to watch her blossom and bloom. And there's no way for us to police our kids when they're away from us. So for her to make that personal decision is just beautiful to watch. God is ordering her steps, and we're excited about all that God gives her to do.
As a mother watching this and listening to this, I have to ask you, how did you kind of navigate raising a child?
That's a big question.
I really don't feel like I can take credit when people say you did a good job. It is completely a God story and a team effort.
You just said the same thing my mother says. She says it was not me. It was by the grace of God. nothing else but the grace of God.
All the prayers of all. My husband, my mother lives with us, so we've always had this almost like full-time 3 adults, 3 kids. So yes. It's like everyone has been
I've been begging my mother to live with us, but she is up and at it on her own. But she's very, very, very involved. She might as well live with us.
Love it.
It's great.
So let me talk to you a little bit about Glamland Official, because I have checked out a lot of what you've got, and it's pretty amazing. You're very young. How did you start your own business at such a young age?
So Glamland actually came about during the pandemic. It was a couch conversation with my dad, and I would just watch YouTube videos about makeup all the time. And my dad was like, "You gonna keep watching those videos? You're gonna do something about it?" I was like, what does that mean? And so he was basically getting my gears to start turning. What are you gonna do to attribute to this industry? What are you gonna do to add to this industry? And so that couch conversation turned into phone calls, logo, trademark, name.
And so, Dr. Tara, I want to ask you, what's the next step for enoughness?
You're breaking up.
What is the next step for enoughness? I know that you had some classes and we're kind of, guiding some ladies. What's the next step for that?
So our next step is that we're going to have a follow-up book that deals with the person we see in the mirror. Right now, we're doing a mirror project where we are telling people that what they say to themselves matter, what you say about yourself matters, and what you answer to matters. So I'm going to conferences throughout the rest of the year, challenging people to say something specific to themselves every single day. And that too will also be a book, Mirror on the Wall.
I love it. I feel like this is something that's so timely. We are all just, I assume that everyone is doing the best they can. And it sounds so cliche that we're living in unprecedented times, but we really, really, really are living in unprecedented times. Everyone that comes on the podcast, we always ask them, what is the good word? What is the message that people can take with them and hold on to until the next episode? I'll start with you, Princess, and then Dr. Tara, you can finish us out.
Okay. Something that you all can take away with you is that your faith is something that is going to get you through. So just don't lose hope, because things will get better.
Yeah.
And everything.
Amen.
Right.
And Dr. Tara.
Something I always like to say to anyone that I meet is do what you're created to do, not what you're expected to do. People will have expectations and boxes that they want you to live in for their own comfort, but you got to do what God created you to do and not what you're expected to do.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Dr. Tara Jenkins, Princess Jenkins, thank you so much for joining us on the Good Word podcast. We love you. We are proud of you. We are inspired by you. And we will continue to follow your journey. For folks who are listening who want to follow along as well, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Princess A Jenkins and follow Glamland at Glamland Official.
For me, you can follow me at Dr. Tara Jenkins on all social media.
Lovely. Ladies, thank you so much. Thank you again.
Thank you, Tisha.
Thank you.